This is Land of Havilah, Exodus 4. In the last chapter, God spoke to Moses from the burning bush. He said, "Go to Egypt, gather the elders of Israel, take them to Pharaoh, and tell Pharaoh, quote, 'Let us go 3 days' journey into the wilderness that we may sacrifice to Yahweh our God,' end quote." But God intends to bring Israel out of Egypt totally into Canaan, with Moses leading them. Moses responded, "Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and that I should bring the children of Israel out?" God's answer was, "Certainly I will be with you." Coming up, God's still speaking to Moses at the burning bush, and there's the introduction of Moses' very interesting rod. Verse 1. Moses answered, "But behold, they will not believe me nor listen to my voice, for they will say, 'Yahweh has not appeared to you.'" Comment: Moses says this is going to be too much for the elders of Israel to believe. Verse 2. Yahweh said to him, "What is that in your hand?" He said, "A rod." He said, "Throw it on the ground." He threw it on the ground, and it became a snake, and Moses ran away from it. Yahweh said to Moses, "Stretch out your hand and take it by the tail." He stretched out his hand and took hold of it, and it became a rod in his hand. "That they may believe that Yahweh, the God of their fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, has appeared to you." Yahweh said furthermore to him, "Now put your hand inside your cloak." He put his hand inside his cloak, and when he took it out, behold, his hand was leprous, as white as snow. He said, "Put your hand inside your cloak again." He put his hand inside his cloak again, and when he took it out of his cloak, behold, it had turned again as his other flesh. It will happen, if they will not believe you or listen to the voice of the first sign, that they will believe the voice of the latter sign. Comment: the two signs to the elders will be the rod becoming a snake and the hand being leprous and instantly healed. God says, verse 9, "It will happen, if they will not believe even these two signs or listen to your voice, that you shall take of the water of the river and pour it on the dry land. The water which you take out of the river will become blood on the dry land." Moses said to Yahweh, "O Lord, I am not eloquent, neither before now nor since you've spoken to your servant, for I am slow of speech and slow of tongue." Comment: Moses is back to his original sticking point, which was that he thought himself unable. But Yahweh already answered him, "Certainly I will be with you." Verse 11. Yahweh said to him, "Who made man's mouth? Or who makes one mute or deaf or seeing or blind? Isn't it I, Yahweh? Now therefore go, and I will be with your mouth and teach you what you shall speak." Comment: that was basically the answer God gave him the first time. "You can be confident I'll be with you." Moses responded, verse 13. He said, "Oh Lord, please send someone else." Yahweh's anger burned against Moses, and he said, "What about Aaron, your brother, the Levite? I know that he can speak well. Also, behold, he comes out to meet you. When he sees you, he'll be glad in his heart." Comment: Moses has a brother Aaron. God has already prompted Aaron somehow to come out and meet Moses. God says, verse 15, "You shall speak to him and put the words in his mouth. I'll be with your mouth and with his mouth, and will teach you what you shall do. He'll be your spokesman to the people, and it will happen that he'll be to you a mouth, and you'll be to him as God. You shall take this rod in your hand with which you shall do the signs." Comment: God will speak to Moses, Moses will tell it to Aaron, and Aaron will tell it to the people. Coming up, Moses is convinced now, but it took 6 miracles to get him to this point. There were the miracles of the burning bush, of the voice coming from it, of the rod becoming a snake, of it becoming a rod again, of the hand becoming leprous, and of it becoming normal again. To all of which Moses replied, "Please send someone else." God said he would back him up, but when God said Aaron would also back him up, that was enough. What an insult to God that he wasn't enough, that Moses also needed Aaron. But God was patient. For our part, we should know whatever it is that God has for a person to accomplish, God will be with that person in the doing of it. In verse 11, if we're mute or deaf or blind, he made us that way, and still we're the right person for the job if it's us he picks. He doesn't set us up for failure. If we lack confidence in ourselves, that's a good thing. It's called humility. But if we lack confidence in God, that's a problem. Philippians 4:13, quote, "I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me," end quote. On another point, Some believe that illness or disability is never from God, that only Satan would put something like that on us. But God said in verse 11, "Who makes one mute or deaf or seeing or blind? Isn't it I, Yahweh?" End quote. Clearly, Yahweh expects us to understand that it's He who makes a person mute or deaf or seeing or blind. Coming up, Moses' father-in-law Reuel has another name, which is Jethro, or Moses has more than one wife and more than one father-in-law, Reuel being one and Jethro the other. We know Moses is on board with Yahweh now because, verse 18, Moses went and returned to Jethro, his father-in-law, and said to him, "Please let me go and return to my brothers who are in Egypt and see whether they're still alive." Jethro said to Moses, "Go in peace." Comment: Moses told his father-in-law he wanted to visit his Israelite people in Egypt, which was true. He didn't give the main reason for going and didn't need to. We don't have to tell everything. Quote, "The wise don't tell everything they know," Proverbs 10:14. Coming up, another encouraging word for Moses, and Moses will start out. Verse 19. Yahweh said to Moses in Midian, "Go, return into Egypt, for all the men who sought your life are dead." Moses took his wife and his sons and set them on a donkey, and he returned to the land of Egypt. Moses took God's rod in his hand. Yahweh said to Moses, "When you go back into Egypt, see that you do before Pharaoh all the wonders which I've put in your hand, but I'll harden his heart, and he will not let the people go. You shall tell Pharaoh, Yahweh says, Israel is my son, my firstborn. And I've said to you, let my son go that he may serve me, and you've refused to let him go. Behold, I'll kill your son, your firstborn." Comment: God said he would work wonders to get Israel out of Egypt. The final wonder will be the killing of the firstborn Egyptian males, including Pharaoh's own firstborn. In the story behind the story, the hidden prophecy behind what we're reading, in another 1,400 years, God would kill his only son to accomplish our delivery from this world to the next. As for Moses on his journey to Egypt, verse 24, on the way at the lodging place, Yahweh met Moses and wanted to kill him. Comment: Yahweh wanted to kill Moses? Why? Verse 25. Then Zipporah took a flint and cut off the foreskin of her son and cast it at his feet, and she said, "Surely you are a bridegroom of blood to me." So he let him alone. Then she said, "You are a bridegroom of blood because of the circumcision." Comment: Yahweh was angry with Moses because living in Midian, Moses ignored the covenant of circumcision, Genesis 17:11. One of his sons wasn't circumcised. We don't know which one. Both sons were from Zipporah, Exodus 18:3. Obviously, Zipporah was against circumcision, and she did not take it well. It sounds as if Moses was too gentle or couldn't stand the sight of blood, that he refused to do it himself, but knowing it had to be done, he made Zipporah do it because in verse 25 she was the one who performed the act, and in verse 26 she only did it because Moses insisted, and the screams of the child made her even more angry about it. She cast the foreskin at Moses' feet and chewed him out about it. Coming up, how did Yahweh move on Aaron? He spoke to him, verse 27. Yahweh said to Aaron, "Go into the wilderness to meet Moses." He went and met him on God's mountain and kissed him. Comment: God arranged the rendezvous at the place of the burning bush, which was Mount Horeb. Verse 28. Moses told Aaron all Yahweh's words with which he had sent him, and all the signs with which he had instructed him. Comment: Now on to Egypt. Verse 29. Moses and Aaron went and gathered together all the elders of the children of Israel. Aaron spoke all the words which Yahweh had spoken to Moses, and did the signs in the sight of the people. The people believed, and when they heard that Yahweh had visited the children of Israel and that he had seen their affliction, then they bowed their heads and worshipped. Comment: The elders of Israel are on board for now. They bowed their heads and worshipped, but they'll crumble immediately when Pharaoh resists them. Brothers and sisters, with God helping, let's not crumble to the death. Exodus 5 is next at landofhavilah.net, Exodus 5.